Memorandum to the Collegium of Celestial Scholars from the Office of Advanced Astrological Inquiry, Department of Applied Esoterics, date Anno Stellae, current date. Subject Astrological Abyss, Volume 2, The Praxis of Celestial Dynamics. Preamble. The second volume of the Astrological Abyss delves into the applied, the pathological, and the topological dimensions of our art. Where Volume 1 explored the philosophical foundations, this installment concerns itself with the interaction of cosmic patterns with the human body, mind, society, and the very fabric of perceived reality. We move from theory to praxis, from map to territory, acknowledging the profound and often unsettling power inherent in celestial mechanics. Astrological warfare. The strategic use of electional and mundane astrology for geopolitical dominance. This is not merely predicting conflict, but actively seeking astrological windows for action. Doctrine of celestial shock and awe, launching initiatives during a Mars-Uranus conjunction in a cardinal sign to create rapid, destabilizing effects that opponents cannot cohesively respond to. Psychological operations, psyops, synastry, analyzing the synastry between a nation's leader and the populace of an adversary to identify archetypal insecurities, example like Chiron contacts for targeted propaganda. Resource blockade elections, timing economic sanctions to be initiated under a Saturn-Pluto square, maximizing the feeling of entrapment and despair in the target nation. Astrological entropy. The measure of chaos and decay within a system is reflected in the chart. It is the astrological equivalent of the second law of thermodynamics. Natal entropy. A chart with multiple quincunxes in conjuncts, a heavily afflicted 12th house, and a dissipated Neptune indicates a high degree of internal psychic entropy, a tendency towards dissolution and confusion. Progress entropy. The progressed moon's transit through the 6th, 8th, and 12th houses can be periods of increasing systemic entropy, where health, 6th house, shared resources, 8th house, and the subconscious 12th house require immense energy to maintain order. The karmic entropy principle. Pluto transits, particularly hard aspects to the sun or moon, function as cosmic heat death for outmoded aspects of the self, breaking them down to their constituent parts for recycling into a new, more complex order. Astrology in psychology and mental illness, a diagnostic framework moving beyond simplistic labels. The Saturn-Neptune axis of pathology. Saturn, structure, reality testing, and hard aspect to Neptune, dissolution, fantasy, is the primary signature for psychotic and dissociative disorders. The ego's walls, Saturn, are compromised by the oceanic unconscious, Neptune. The Mars-Pluto impulse complex. A stressed Mars-Pluto dynamic squares oppositions is not merely anger, but a deep compulsive drive for power and control, underlying conditions from OCD to certain personality disorders. It is the psyche's unintegrated shadow. The bipolar spectrum, Mercury-Uranus. The rapid, electric, and dissociative quality of Mercury-Uranus hard aspects correlates with manic, flight of ideas thinking, while the subsequent crash often involves a contacting of buried 12th house Neptunian material. Astrological, physiologic, and physical health. An advanced system of medical astrology. Amputations and Saturn-Mars retrogression. A natal Mars or Saturn retrograde, particularly when afflicted by transit in an angular house, 1st, 4th, 7th, 10th, can indicate a life where a part of the self, symbolized by the house and sign, must be consciously severed for survival or evolution. Overdoses and the Neptune-Pholus axis. An overdose is a Pholus, the centaur of the poison wound, event triggered by a Neptune dissolution escape transit. It represents a catastrophic breach in the container of the body, often linked to a deep generational or karmic wound. Disease etiology. Cancer is a Pluto, uncontrolled cell growth, in hard aspect to a weakened moon, the body's container and nurturing system. Autoimmune diseases are a Mars immune system turning on itself, often triggered by a Chiron, the unhealable wound, transit to the 6th house cusp. Astrology and music, the celestial signature of sound. Planetary harmonics. Each planet corresponds to a specific frequency and musical mode. Saturn is the Dorian mode, restrictive, solemn. Jupiter is the Lydian mode, expansive, joyful. Composing in a specific mode invokes that planetary archetype. The chart of a song. Casting a chart for the moment a song's final mix is completed reveals its soul. A song with a strong 5th house Leo and Sun will be anthemic and performative. A song with a dominant 12th house Pisces and Neptune will be ambient, dreamlike, and dissociative. Advanced astrological rhetoric and rhetorical questions. The art of persuasive celestial discourse. Rhetoric. The Saturn IX return is not a crisis but a cosmic graduation, a shedding of the larval self to make way for the adult form. Rhetorical questions. If the Sun is the core of one's identity and Pluto the core of one's transformation, is not the true self found only in space between a Sun-Pluto conjunction and opposition? When we use astrology to predict, do we observe fate, or do we, like the quantum physicists, participate in its creation? Advanced astrological omens, beyond transits, instantaneous celestial signals. The shattered lens, a telescope or astrological instrument breaking down during a crucial reading, is a Mercury-Uranus omen, signaling a fundamental flaw in the current line of inquiry or an imminent disruptive revelation. The unbidden animal. The appearance of a specific animal during a ritual or meditation key to a planetary hour, like a crow during a Saturn hour, is an omen from the anima mundi, its meaning derived from the animal symbolism and the planetary archetype. Advanced astrological expansions into spiritual facades. The use of astrology to deconstruct spiritual bypassing and ego inflation in awakened communities. The Guru complex, a prominent Jupiter-Neptune conjunction, especially in the 9th or 10th house, can manifest as a spiritual facade used to avoid Saturn IX responsibilities, accountability, structure, and Plutonian shadow work. The starseed bypass, identifying heavily as a Pleiadian or Sirian to explain a difficult natal chart like a packed 8th house, is a Neptunian escape from the gritty, earthly, and necessary integration of one's own Pluto and Saturn. Advanced astrological tier list rank system, a heuristic for chart complexity and potential. Tier S, Sovereign, charts with a dominant configuration like Grand Trine or T-square that is fully conscious and integrated. The individual has become the master of their archetypal pattern. Tier A, Archetypal, charts with strong, clear, and potent planetary placements and aspects. The individual has a distinct, powerful destiny, but may struggle with its weight. Tier B, Balanced, charts with a mix of easy and challenging aspects, allowing for a relatively stable, normal life with periods of growth and challenge. Tier C, Chaotic, charts with multiple conflicting aspects like a mutable T-square with out-of-sign conjunctions, high potential for internal conflict and disintegration, but also for profound transformation if chaos is mastered. Advanced astrological research endeavors propose formal studies. The Hades Moon Project, a longitudinal study of individuals with Moon-Pluto hard aspects, tracking their relationships with mothers, power dynamics, and cyclical patterns of death, rebirth, in their emotional lives. The Quantum Natal Chart Experiment, a double-blind study attempting to correlate specific unpredictable quantum event outcomes with the natal charts of the observers. Advanced Astrological Manual for Paranormal Events, a diagnostic guide. Poltergeist activity, a Uranus transit to the 4th house home ruler combined with a progressed moon in Scorpio represents a sudden, disruptive release of repressed Scorpio psychic energy from the family unconscious. 4th. Precognitive dreams, a Neptune transit to Mercury or the 3rd, 9th house cusps, thinning the veil between the conscious mind and the Akashic records. 9th. Entity attachment, a long-term debilitating Neptune or 12th house transit, often coinciding with a spiritual or psychological crisis that has left the individual's aura, psychic immune system, compromised. Manifestation techniques using advanced astrology, moving beyond the law of attraction to celestial engineering. The talismanic election, not just choosing a good time, but choosing a time where the specific planetary energies required, like Jupiter for abundance, Mercury for a book deal, are angular on the ascendant or midheaven and unafflicted, then creating a physical talisman at that exact moment to anchor the energy. The Saturn IX manifestation, for goals requiring structure and longevity, one begins the work during a Saturn transit to their 2nd house, resources, or 10th house, career. The initial struggle is not a sign of failure, but the necessary Saturn IX pressure to create a diamond. Advanced astrological topology, the study of the chart as a multidimensional shape, not a flat circle. The chart as a torus, donut. Energy flows from the ascendant input to the descendant output, but also through a central axis, suggesting a dynamic circulating system of energy exchange with the environment. The Klein bottle model of the 12th house. The 12th house is not a container but a non-orientable surface like a Klein bottle, where what is inside the unconscious is continuous with what is outside, the collective unconscious. There is no boundary. Advanced astrological ontology, the study of celestial being and reality. The chart as a script versus the chart as a sandbox. Is the natal chart a fixed script we are destined to enact deterministic ontology, or is it a sandbox of archetypal tools and landscapes with which we have radical freedom to build a life? Existentialist ontology. The participatory universe model. The planets do not cause events. They and our lives are both expressions of a deeper underlying pattern in the unified field. The astrologer does not read influences but deciphers synchronous expressions of a single cosmic thought. This volume demonstrates that the scope of advanced astrology is limitless, intersecting with medicine, physics, psychology, and metaphysics. It is a tool for diagnosis, for creation, for spiritual combat, and for ontological inquiry. These entries are not the final word, but provocations intended to equip the Collegium for the next frontier, the astrological analysis of non-human intelligence and the architecture of dimensions beyond our own. In Luce Silorum, the Office of Advanced Astrological Inquiry, Department of Applied Esoterics.